Hey, welcome to my channel where I talk about my dolls, and that's literally it. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about why going forward, I won't be buying any more American Girl dolls or products and telling the story behind why. It's a story I started telling about a month or so ago when I talked about the struggles of being a Canadian collector of American Girl. So some of you might have already seen that video, which means you might have heard parts of the story already. And the truth is I'm going to be going a lot deeper in this video. So I'm going to be making clear chapters in case people want to jump around, they're not interested in hearing the whole story. The main reason I want to tell this is not just because having a couple hundred witnesses to quitting is, I'm stubborn enough that I don't need that, but it's just so if people are following me for certain kinds of content, then it's for transparency. If you're following along for only new release unboxings, that's the main thing that's going to change about my channel. But again, I'm going to put a clear chapter when I talk about that more specifically, so you can just jump around to what you want to hear. And because of because it wasn't a very pleasant experience of what I went through with this whole saga, sometimes I might get a little sassy or a little shady or even like philosophical, talking about like how it made me feel. But so that's why, again, I'm just trying to give everybody warnings of what can be expected here. And it is connected to my berry rewards, which again, to anybody who saw the previous video where I talked about it, they might have already known that. And the fact that I'm talking or doing this video means obviously they canceled it again, and third time was a charm. So yeah, just if you're gonna listen to the whole thing, maybe get a snack, because I have a feeling there's gonna be a long one, but I'll try to be brief as I can. One thing that's probably important to, when I say that I'm going to tell a deeper story, I'm going to go back to even before I started buying exclusively from American Girl, because we in Canada used to have it at we used to have American Girl at a bookstore here. And we also had a rewards program it wasn't just because it was a bookstore, so it was a rewards program that you could use for anything. The way you accumulated rewards wasn't as clear as American Girl's rewards program, and it was, the longer you held on to the points, the more they were worth, the more you had. So it's like if you had 2,000 points at $10, if you had 10,000 points, it was worth $50 instead of 20. Do you know what I mean? So like each level was worth more. And so it almost felt like it took forever to get to a reward point where you could actually use them. And the other bonus that ended up coming with Indigo was they eventually put everything on clearance because they were no longer to be carrying it. And my collecting habits really evolved kind of quickly in the last year, 2024, because I was only into certain things with Claudie and Courtney before I went a little haywire with the sales, with the kind of things that lure you, that's kind of suck you in into getting more than you really probably would normally. And so because before Indigo closed down carrying American Girl, I did buy periodically from the American Girl website. I usually would use, let's say I was selling off old dolls that I no longer care about. I used to collect these dolls called Integrity Toys. I would then have US funds in my PayPal, and then I would use that if I was going to buy something from American Girl that either didn't come to Canada, because in the end, they weren't getting everything at Indigo. Like, we didn't get the twins, the Millennium Twins. We didn't get Claudie's second wave of clothing, and we never got any limited edition items. So there were certain things that were always just left exclusive to the American site. So, for example, Barbie, I pre-ordered her while Indigo was still carrying things because I have an American address. It's work related, and it'll definitely come up later, but that's sort of where my collecting habits were before. This is all like leading up to berry rewards. And so once things went on clearance, I started collecting more. And then I think even when by the time I started my channel, that's when Indigo, they still had a few things left over. So anybody who's followed my channel since the beginning or has gone back and watched the older videos, first of all, sorry about that. But also you would know that I was still sharing some of the things I was buying at Indigo as they were clearing the very last bit out. But around the time I started my channel, it was just like little scraps at the end, let's say. But because I had spent, I bought quite a few things that were only available on the American site. So I'd spend a couple, maybe 3,000 before the Indigo thing was cleared out. And so after that was all done, I remember at one time I called American Girl. I don't remember I was trying to, I don't think it was, sometimes you had to place orders over the phone because there was this shop app. And if you are using the shop app as a Canadian, you can't, it just limits you. So when I called in one time, I think I was putting through an order for a limited edition item. The person on the phone helped me and just kind of explained how sometimes these things you get locked out when you're taking certain paths. And he asked me what the American address was that I was using and why I didn't, why didn't I use that address to sign up for berry rewards? And I just explained that. So this was like maybe around May last year, April, May. It was right before the re-release of the historicals came out. And so asked me, we talked a little bit about history. He was just trying to be helpful, just for the record. Everything, like if I ever sound like I'm blaming somebody, like this all happened because somebody got me started on Barbera Rewards. No, that's not it at all. He was just explaining that, if that's an address that I use and I stay there sometimes, and it's like an address that I can use for billing, then I can very it didn't matter if I would be shipping it to things to my Canadian address sometimes. I think it's changed since, and I've never lived outside North America, but I think he explained that you could ship anywhere at the time. And I will get to when I think that changed, but I could be wrong. So he said it doesn't matter if you're shipping it to another address, as long as the billing address is your American one, then you can apply for berry rewards. And so he suggested starting a new account, so like a new email, and just starting from scratch. And I have to give this is kind of like a little sneaky bit of information, but when you're on social media, you do tend to make friendships with people who have a little bit of inside information, let's say. So at the time that this was happening, I knew that historical re-release was coming, just from a little side of, little scoop tea or whatever you would say, inside scoop. So when I wasn't worried about the money that I had spent, because I was like, well, you know what? Now that I can become a Berry Rewards member, if I buy this whole, what was it? Just the historical re-release. I'm having a little trouble saying that. If I can buy that whole thing at once, that whole set, I would become a Berry Rewards member overnight, because I think you have to spend $500 a year in order to qualify. So that re-release was going to be more than that. So I thought, okay, that's kind of perfect. I'll sign up, and if I qualify, I will get the Berry Rewards right away. So I followed the advice and I started the new account. And I remember getting that email saying, you're in, you're a Berry Reward member. And it was just this weird feeling of, wow, I'm just like everyone else. I belong. I'm part of what everyone else does. Because one of the things that he said, and I think he was again saying it to be helpful, and just seeing that I'd already spent enough to have become a Berry Rewards member a few times over, he was like, you're spending all this money, you should, if you have this American address too. And so that's why I'm saying I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble or blame anyone. It's just that he was trying to be helpful by saying, I see that you have this address, and I see that you spend enough that you could have been a Berry Rewards member already. So when I got that email, I had already had that in my head, like, yeah, I am spending all this money. Why shouldn't I be able to be a Berry Rewards member for, people who spend way less than I do? Not that they don't deserve it. I'm just saying, why didn't I? So that was the feeling. There was like this excitement that came in when I knew that I was going to be just like everyone else who spent money and collected American Girl, and I knew that the points would accumulate fast, especially because once you get to Berry Rewards, Berry tier, you get 1.5 points for everything that you spend. And so it was as soon as the historical re-release shipped, I got that email that was said, "Hello, Barry, you've reached the top." So again, it was that excitement feeling of, now that I was there, I just felt like, oh, I can order anything I want now, and that was going to become a problem for me in 2024. But at this point, it was very exciting just to know that I had made it to the top tier, and I could now qualify for Berry Rewards certificates every month. And because it's every 1,000 points you would get, you would receive a $50 reward. So basically, I was always going to be at that maximum to get the $50 reward. Looking back, I don't know if I would have wanted that entire release, the rehistorical release, if it weren't for the enticement of having those rewards. But it was fun opening that all at once. And I do still love everything that I got from it. Even Josefina, who, if anybody's followed my other, or watch my other videos, they'll know that I have bad luck with her and her eyes. It's her eye placement, and my Josefina has that kind of eye placement too. But it was still like that excitement that I had, and having the whole set just it feels nice to have an entire set all together. It's just the way I am as a collector. But the thing about these dolls is they're huge, so they take up a lot of space. Because that's the thing I was saying about having a doll budget, because of selling off old dolls that I no longer collect. For me, budget is more about space. So I think I probably, when I started collecting American Girl, I had moved really slowly, because you get 3 of these dolls and it's like, where am I going to put all these? And slowly they take over your life, or your collection, at least your display. And so that's what I was feeling there, was just the fun of, oh, now I have this like excuse of buying more and taking up more space. It was just this like, this thing that sucks you in. I think I've already said that, but I'm just trying to reiterate how I was feeling. Like it was this constant excitement, this dopamine rush, and having that bonus there really was affecting my spending habits, my purchasing habits with American Girl. And I remember when I got that first reward certificate, it would have been the one for May, I believe, or maybe June, and I got a CYO doll, and so my feeling of that moment was, oh wow, this $50 off of a CYO makes the CYO so cheap. But then, unfortunately, two things happened around the time that I got that CYO, when I decided I was going to get a CYO every month, basically with my $50 rewards. They, I don't remember exactly what had happened, but the CYO price shot up to a price point that I couldn't justify, even with the $50 rewards. And around the same time, uh, uh, American Girl switched over their payment, what would you call it, like their payment system. So whatever they were using before, around the time that I became a Berry Rewards member, they switched over to this new system that was going to affect a lot of things. And it's like I was calling so much because of what's about to happen that I even know the name of their payment system. I mean, I won't say it. If it slips out, that's fine. But I'm not going to say it just in case I wasn't supposed to know that that's what their system is called. But I was calling back and forth sometimes that sometimes they would say it and then I would repeat it back. And some people were like, how did you know that? I'm like, am I going to get someone in trouble? So anyway, the thing about this new payment system is it recognized, because I said I opened up a new account with a different email, but it still had both my addresses on it. So this new payment system recognized the two addresses and it merged the two accounts that I had. And so now a couple things were happening. My points were now, because my points were all in the new account. And so it was kind of confusing things at first, as in like where the points were going. So then they closed down one account and merged everything into one. But then, because of this new payment system recognizing the two addresses, my rewards account ended up getting canceled and all my points got wiped the first time. And this first time that it happened was right before the July rewards were going to go out, which meant I didn't get that certificate that would have gone out that month because it looked like I was no longer a Berry Rewards member and had no points. There was a lot of back and forth. I was calling, not every day or anything like that, but they would say, we're looking into it. It has to go through the security team. We'll get back to you. And I mean, I knew I wasn't going to get the reward certificate that month, so no CYO at that time. And it was more about trying to get it in time for the next month at that point. And I just want to be very upfront that everyone was really nice, super helpful. Even with, because now both my accounts had been merged, so all the orders were in one place, so they could see that I was someone who bought a lot with American Girl. Again, even before the Berry Rewards, but especially after the Berry Rewards. And so I think because of that, they were seeing me as like a valued customer and trying to get everything turned around. Because one of the things was once they got the account reactivated, they didn't get they told me to stop. They didn't tell me to stop. They said that because I constantly have orders on the go, they can't merge the points. They can't get the points into the now merged account. So I was like, okay, my latest order has just shipped, so I won't order anything else until this is fixed. And I was like, but I do have stuff in my carts, just so you know. And so it wasn't me trying to create urgency. It really was. I was like, I would just, because of this constant euphoria or this dopamine of getting new stuff, I would get things set up, and then I'd be like, oh, now I have this doll, I could put this outfit. So I was constantly seeing things. It's just how I am as a collector. I'm not blaming my rewards for that solely, but it helped. It really did add to it. So another thing was, now, because I said before, you make friends, you get inside scoop. I knew that the Frozen dolls were coming, and I was able to sell off a couple of integrity toys. What do you call it? Raise the funds to buy the dolls, and I know that's an obnoxious thing to hear, but it's just it's just something that happens within social media. Even when I was on Instagram, no matter what I've collected, for the record, it didn't matter if it was any kind of line. You do end up making friends with people who have some kind of inside scoop, and when you're a hardcore collector, you kind of look out for each other, just so you know. So I was saying to them, hopefully you get this sorted in time. Because another thing was, I calmly explained to them, and this is going to sound a little bit diva-ish, and that if at any point you feel like I was being a brat or a suck, you have every right to feel how you feel about my actions based on how you would feel in the situation. So I wouldn't argue with anyone and say you're wrong that you think I'm a brat. I'm just saying the way I felt when I calmly explained to them was, the thing is, if I can't get my points back, I'm going to feel like, I still had like thousands of points, which is $50 for every 1,000. So I felt like right now you have like hundreds of dollars that you've kind of essentially stolen from me, is how I felt. And so I was like, if I can't get the account back, I have quit collecting other things in the past for less than this, like over less drama than this. And I mean, I think I'm making it sound very light, but I was kind of like stressed and feeling kind of silly at the time. Like, oh, I got all these points and they were taking them. And is that right? So again, they were always being very nice and they were understanding and they were putting notes into my account every time. And then luckily they did get it all fixed just in time for me to drop all that money on those $2 that I, again, knew were coming. I was one of the lucky ones who had a heads up that they were coming, so I can't complain about that just because I was able to raise the funds. And, I was all excited, not just because of getting the $2 that had a lot of nostalgia for me, because I had been a Disney collector for a long time, and the Frozen dolls were a really big deal when they got released, and Frozen is a big thing among Disney collectors in general. So just saying that I was excited, that's why I was looking forward to them. But not that any of that mattered, especially all those bonus points that I got, because shortly after that order shipped, my berry rewards were canceled again. So now that I had dropped over $600 on Anna and Elsa, my points were gone one more time. To be honest, this time I felt really stupid. You know that whole like, fool me once, shame on you? And now I felt like the fool, because it was like, was this some kind of scam to keep making me spend money? It's like every time, like, I said I wasn't going to buy anything else, and then they fixed it, and then I bought a big something else, and then the rewards were all taken from me again. And truthfully, everybody I spoke to, they were really nice, really helpful. It's just, as far as I could tell, it didn't seem like it was getting fixed. And again, this is not on anybody I was speaking to. I do think they were trying, but whatever was going on with their new payment system, that could have been the problem. Maybe it could have been anything. Like, sometimes I felt like I would speak to somebody, the reason I was about to say something, because somebody I spoke to, I eventually got to someone who said either she was Canadian or used to live in Canada. I don't know if she was Canadian born, now she lives in America, and she worked there. And so she was kind of reading the notes in my account to herself, and she wasn't reading anything back to me, but she was saying, oh, okay, she said something about, I'm taking this really personally. And I'm like, what? She's like, oh, there's just something. She said something to the effect of something that hinted at there was something in my account. So I was like, oh, is it because and I explained to her, I have a Canadian address and an American address, and I did the whole thing that I had to explain every time I called. But there was something in the tone of her voice that felt like there was something more to it. And not to sound paranoid about this kind of thing, but sometimes I would call American Girl and somebody would recognize either my name or my voice, and they would say, oh, I know your channel. So you can't help but think like, oh, I probably annoy so many people out there. Anybody who works there would be like, oh God, it's that guy. You know what I mean? Like, you never know. Like, to anybody out there who's watching because they enjoy the content, for every one of you, there could be at least 100 who are like, oh, not this guy. Anybody but this guy. It's just the way, that's just an expectation you could have anytime you put yourself out there. And anyway, so I did wonder if there was a little bit of like vitriol to where, and not to sound paranoid or full of myself as if anybody would even care that much, because I don't really, at the heart of it, I don't really think that would be the case. It's just, you have those moments of, why does this keep happening? Like, I'm doing everything that I was told to do, everything should be fine, but now it's gotten canceled again, and this person I'm speaking to is making it sound like there's something a little bit more going on. So she said, because, she was taking it personal with the whole Canadian connection, that she would get it fixed. And this was late August now. And secretly, at this point, I knew the Pink Stardust dolls were coming. Again, back to that whole, I know, inside scoop, but that's what was going on. So I was on edge because there was a Claudie doll, and Claudie's my favorite American Girl mold, and the reason I got into American Girl ultimately. So knowing that she was on the way, I also knew that there were only 3,000 of her compared to the 10,000 of the Josefina mold. And so in my brain, somebody who had collected Disney dolls and they would release a 5,000 edition size of a Disney limited edition doll could go in a flash. So I had this mentality that these Claudie dolls were going to sell out in minutes so I had to get in on the first day as a Berry tier member, because I that's how, when you're on the Berry tier, because it wasn't just about getting points, you had first access to everything, which is like the most exclusive thing, the most like maybe the best part was just knowing that I could get in, especially when that Stardust doll was coming out. I was really nervous about that. So I really had this urgency for them to get it fixed right away. But by early September, when the doll was released, my account still wasn't fixed, which meant two things. One, I wasn't going to get a Berry Award certificate again. And two, I had to call in my order because somebody had told me, don't worry, you'll still be able to order the dolls, even if we don't get your points fixed and your account back up and running. Just call in and you can place the order over the phone and somebody will help you. And I did call in, and of course, the person who helped me was really nice. And I know I keep saying that but I'm not always going to say that. So I want to make it very clear that when I'm speaking to a specific person and they're nice, they were nice. So because I was almost like fighting to get my rewards back, luckily, like I said, ordered the Claudia dolls, happy about that. But I still did want my points. And so it was, again, going back and forth a lot with people. And there was only one time at this point of the story that somebody got what might have been, maybe they're making a joke, maybe it came across the wrong way because I was already thinking, are they not going to give me back my rewards? And I had already spoken to that agent who said she was Canadian. She was taking something about it personally, and I couldn't see that side of the screen to know what she meant. So one time I called and I was explaining the situation to somebody, and she said, well, it is American Girl, And I didn't snap back. I kind of was like wounded and felt stupid again because I was like, is that what's happening? Like my insides, I was like, oh, is that what's happening? Is it they don't want Canadians having any access to this at all? They just like, it doesn't matter if we have the address, just knowing that we're Canadian, you're not one of us. Is that kind of what it was? So in this like wounded voice, not a snappy voice, I was just like, oh, so do you mean I should be putting all my money toward Canadian Girl, like Maple Lee? And I got put on hold so fast. So I don't know if somebody was, I do believe somebody's either listening to calls or recording them, because not only did I get put on hold very fast, when she came back, her tone was very different and she was very apologetic and said she was going to look into it. But I still had that feeling in my brain, like, am I being played here? Am I being just silly and stupid? Being so, seduced by these dolls, especially this big Stardust Claudia doll. And what I alluded to before about my American address, work-related address, I had to get really personal when I was calling in around this time. I was like, just putting notes on my account saying, I realized that people may be watching videos and I may be talking a lot about how I'm always in Canada, but there may be things that I don't want to say about the two addresses that I have on video when, I'm you can't help but be paranoid if you're talking about like all these collectibles you have and you're putting yourself out there. And if you're not home for a couple of days, you don't want the whole world to know that. And I was already paranoid even before my storage locker got broken into, which happened in September. So while all this was happening, so it's like you're already paranoid about stuff like that, putting your collection out there, which I know, again, fully, not to be completely full of myself, but it's just one of those things you have to think about when you're putting out videos and even putting pictures on Instagram. You just never know. These things mean a lot to you, so you can be paranoid. So I finally did get somebody to put nice notes in my account about, if you're seeing the videos, it is legit. He can have this Berry Rewards account. And so they finally, I would say they got it fixed based on all that. When they solved the issue, someone phoned me to tell me that I had to be careful never to use my Canadian address as the billing address. So if I'm shipping something to my Canadian address, just make sure to use the American address with the because you have to have a billing address so that your credit card is an American credit card, so that everything is checking the balances on their end. So she said it doesn't matter where you're shipping it, just as long as you make sure that the billing address is the U.S. address that your American credit card is connected to. And it's like I had never really paid attention to it before, so I didn't know if I was always putting in if I was putting in the wrong address. Like maybe I was always putting whatever billing address was wherever I was shipping to. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, that's valid. If it was my fault, then I'll pay better attention now that I know this is a thing. And I don't know if this was always the case. If this was that new payment system I mentioned earlier, if that had just made scrutinize, if orders were getting scrutinized a bit more because of the changes that they had made around the time I became a Berry Rewards member. So she also said if the account, like if that accidentally happened or if it got canceled again, my Berry Rewards got canceled again, they wouldn't be able to fix it. So I think, to be honest, from that point on, every time I placed an order, there was this weird stress. There was this like anxiety, like, is this going to be the time that I accidentally put the wrong billing address and then they cancel my rewards? And then I'm so bitter about all my dolls and I can't stand all these dolls I've invested so much like time, money, and space into. So every time it's hard to put into words that I used to be so excited when I placed an order for anything that I collect, but this had become this weird issue every time I was putting through an order now. Like I was so gung-ho about the rewards that it had become like the pinnacle of why I was collecting at this point. Like if I don't have my rewards, I'm not collecting American Girl. And to be honest, I don't regret that feeling because why shouldn't I get rewards? I have and that'll probably come up again later, but it's like every time I hit submit on on an order, I would just feel this stress like it was going to be the time that it happened. Almost like it was going to keep me up at night. I was going to wake up I never did wake up in the middle of the night being like, did I hit the wrong address? But I felt like that could happen. I was so stressed out sometimes. But then I finally got my second reward certificate in October and I bought 2 more Stardust dolls. So that made me feel better. But again, I was so stressed when I put through the orders. And it was like, I almost felt like I would be relieved if it happened, that I could just finally let this go and get past it. Like I was making peace with the idea. I almost felt like I was uncoupling from collecting American Girl because as I was feeling all this stress, there was almost this like fantasy in, the light at the end of the tunnel was going to be, they're going to cancel my rewards and I can just, stop collecting and I could just get back to my life. Not meaning my life, but I could just stop stressing about this because it would be like in the back of my mind sometimes. Like I do videos on here about American Girl. So sometimes I'd be doing a video while this was going on. And I was just like, I just want this stress over. This is just getting so dumb. And so November rolled around and I got my 3rd reward certificate and still had thousands of points because at this point I barely had like all these points that they're moving. They're not giving me reward certificates every month because they're like canceling my rewards every time they're about to send out the certificate. So instead of me taking out those 1,000 points, they're just rolling over whenever they're fixing up like every time they're fixing my rewards, they're having to add them all back on. So at this point I felt like, well, at least I'll have a $50 reward every month for a few months or maybe forever with the way I both am rolling over the points and the way I spend enough. Because honestly, with the way I was spending last year, and I'm like this as a collector, so I'm not acting surprised about this element, but it's just tell you as far as rewards go, I was spending enough to make the berry tier every month over again. So I was spending a lot. Because to be clear, doll collecting is very important to me. Some people like to travel, some people like designer bags. I like collecting dolls. So a lot of my life has kind of not revolved around it, but it's just something that's where my disposable income goes to. And I have to keep bringing up that point because I must sound like such a bragger or something when I talk about stuff like this, but I don't mean it that way. I just mean I'm very lucky. I'm very, I had to work to get here in life though. Like the dolls that I have like in closets because I don't collect them anymore, they appreciate in value. So I've been lucky in that sense too. So anyway, I just felt like this could keep going forever because of this $50 rewards that eventually they're going to figure out and start giving me every month. So that's where it was just this feeling of, well, once it gets sorted out, it'll be fine. I got my next and last $50 reward in December. And when I went to put through the order, for some reason, it wouldn't let me check out in PayPal, which meant I couldn't use the funds that were already in there. But I wanted to use this reward certificate because it's like, I think at this point I'd only had 3, maybe 4. I'll add them up at the end to see how many it was. But I think I only got like 3 the entire time. And so because it wouldn't let me use PayPal, I must have been in a lazy mood. So instead of inputting all my credit card information manually, I just used Apple Pay, just by clicking my phone. Very easy and lazy. And that's what did it. I mean, I don't know if I know I selected the US address for billing, but I don't know if Apple Pay, I was having it shipped to my Canadian address, just because of the timing of when I was going to be going to America next. And that's kind of how I would base these purchases. Like sometimes if I knew I was going to be there and they were American, like they were kind of purchases you can only get to send to America, ship to America, I would have them sent there. But this time it was nothing of the sort, and I knew it was, the holidays were coming up, so I didn't expect any American trips in the next little while. And I wasn't going to wait until, January, February. So anyway, I just so I shipped it to the Canadian address, but definitely I selected the American address. But now it's my only time I used Apple. It's the only time I've used Apple Pay on American Girl's site. So I just think it just matched up the addresses. Like if I was shipping it here, then it switched the billing address there too. I'm not sure. Whatever the case was, it switched it to the Canadian address. And I put through this order late at night. So I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'll call tomorrow. If they can't fix over the address, this is it. Like I'm sick of feeling this way every time I put through an order. And it happened, despite always trying to be vigilant about making sure the billing address is right. It still happened. So the next morning when I got to work, it's like so responsible. I'm at work calling American Girl, but still, that's the only time that I can call is from work. And so I called somebody and I just explained the situation, what happened, and asked like, it didn't look on my end like the Berry Rewards had been terminated yet because the order hadn't shipped yet. So I think that's what was going to cause it. So while I was on hold for her to speak to the security team, I got my shipping notice. They've never shipped anything so fast in my life. Like within 12 hours, they were shipping it. And so then while I was on the phone with them in hold, I got the shipping notification. Then I checked my rewards and I could see that it had been canceled. So this is around the holidays now, right? So this is, I don't know, early December, mid-December, early mid-December. So a lot of the people who are working there, they're extra hands because they're busier. So I don't expect anyone to be able to know everything that I'm speaking to on the phone. So she ended up transferring me over to the security team. That's who ended up helping me the times before by reinstating my account. And then the person I got in the security team was so nice. I know I keep saying that, but I just really want to make it clear. Obviously they look at your account. They see all the orders that you put through. And he said to me, I'll have it fixed by the afternoon and I will call you back. He said he had a few things going on, holidays, holiday busyness. And so he said he would call me in the afternoon to let me know everything was fine. And I was like, oh, wow. I could tell from talking to him that things were going to be fine. And so I didn't feel stressed. And so when the afternoon rolled around, I didn't call. I didn't worry about it. In fact, I didn't call until the next day, the evening when I got home from work. And again, the person I spoke to was so nice. She could see on her end that it was fixed. And so that she said, it'll be fixed soon. And, if you don't see your points, call back. But then she thanked me for being such an excellent American Girl customer because I'm telling you, even though they don't see how much I spend, they see the number of orders. So they know that I'm shopping there a lot and you can see the dates. And I've had people react the same way when I've called in the past. Like even without issues, if I'm just calling about a tracking number or something, I just have people say, oh, wow, thank you for being such a good customer because honestly, if somebody is spending the way even if you're not spending like I spend, you should be treated that way as a customer. People should be appreciated. This is about to go somewhere. That's why I'm saying this right now. I'm prefacing what happens, in my next call by saying, it doesn't matter if you're spending Berry Rewards amount or if you're on silver tier for the rest of your life, or if you're just buying that one time for a grandkid. If you're buying, you really do expect when you call in, people are going to be very nice to you. So yes, even though it's an expectation, I did appreciate it. And it felt a lot, it was like, okay, good. They see that I'm serious and they're going to fix my rewards, which is, all I cared about at this moment anyway. And so again, that's what I'm prefacing for the next call. The next call happened because a local friend asked if I could pick up Moana because lives in Canada. Moana didn't ship to Canada. So she asked if I could have it shipped to American address, and the next time I travel there to pick it up. And so it was also, it was like sure thing, of course, but if that sounds like wow, you really put yourself out there, I wasn't. I mean, it was the 4 times rewards points. So if anything, it was helping me more than her, even though, I would drive there and back, whatever. She was going to pay for it. So it was like, I was still like, oh, cool. I can get the 4 times the rewards points. Me and these stupid rewards. And so the order that I put through with my December reward certificate had already arrived. So I noticed that the new rewards that they'd been put onto my account. So I could see that they existed, and it had been like a week now. So by anytime it had been less time than this, I would call and have them put the rewards on. But I was being patient because it was the holidays and I know they're busy. And I felt kind of silly being like, I know you're busy with all these orders, but can you fix my points? But it's like, I didn't want to put it off to the last minute and then not have a reward certificate come out in January too. You know what I mean? Because I had missed so many months already because of always getting canceled. So I called back after I put through her order. I called back. And I just want to give a little side note here. Because of to get free shipping, she also ordered a dress just to put it up to the $150 minimum. So it was Moana and the $15, like a dress just to put it up to 150 bucks. So then I noticed the points, and this is probably within a half hour of placing that order. So I called back and I got someone who was clearly just hired on for the holidays. So they weren't able to help very much. And, she just sounded shy and timid. And so I was like, no problem, put me on hold, because she said she was going to figure it out. But she didn't come back on the call. This woman comes back claiming to be a manager, and she's like, hi, I'm taking this call because I'm a manager, and we warned you last time that if this happened again, we wouldn't help you next time. And I was just like, warned me? Meaning? And she was like, what did she say? She was like, oh yeah, I've already terminated your berry rewards. The berry rewards that security team had already fixed the week prior, and that, two other people had already told me that the points were going to be transferred over. This woman came in out of nowhere and was like, I've canceled your, and just so you know, I have to make a little aside here, is anybody who gets on the phone, if you ask for a manager, and I'm not talking about American Girl, I'm talking about anywhere, but I do know it's true at American Girl too, because they're a store just like any other place. Anytime you ask for a manager, the person you're going to get is not going to be a manager. Manager is not going to get on unless, I don't even know what would make a manager get on. I've worked in call centers before. I know how it is. Any functioning human being who's been through these kind of jobs would probably know. I didn't even ask for a manager, and this girl gets on playing like she's a manager. It's so weird. It was like, okay, I don't know what you were so mad about, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, because I was like, I said, well, okay, you canceled my reward. She said, yeah, we warned you last time. And I said, yeah, and I warned you that if you canceled my rewards, I wouldn't collect American Girl anymore. She's like, well, that's a choice you get to make. And I said, okay, so then I'd like to cancel the order I just put through. And she's like, and then she's called back the 4 numbers that the order ended. And she's like, is that it? I'm like, yeah. She's like, already canceled. And I was like, okay, like literally laughing. I was like, okay, bye. And I hung up the phone still laughing, because I was like, that was such a weird exchange. Like, first of all, when you're in any kind of customer service, the instinct is to not, to make a customer not cancel their order. I'm not saying you have to bend over backward and give me these rewards or whatever like that, but trying to convince somebody that you don't need to, or that you can cancel the order and whatever and all that, no big deal. But here's what the problem was. So Moana was back ordered and the dress wasn't. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but you have I forget what they call it, an hour regret policy. So if you can call within the hour of placing an order and get through to somebody, because don't forget it was the holiday, so I was on hold for a very long time trying to get through. So by the time I got through, it was too late to cancel that dress. So I got a cancellation on Moana because she was back ordered, and now just this dress. Now just this dress to put the Moana doll up to free shipping got put through on its own. So, then at this point I had to I had to let the person know who asked me to order the Moana doll, like let her know what was going on. But I didn't get into all this detail, of course. It was just like, they canceled my rewards, whatever. And so, as upset as I was, I just kind of hung up. I was kind of laughing to myself because I was upset of how it went down. It was such a weird way to do it. And I just felt like it had to happen that way. And like I said, I'd already made peace with it a few times over, trying to make peace with it. So at that point, I was just like, okay, that's cool. I know that I need to quit now. This is actually good. It was mostly that feeling of the Band-Aid being ripped off all at once. Just that, the anxiety would be done. I didn't have to stress anymore about every time I was going to put through an order. I was really getting sick of that feeling. And for this to happen. The timing was so funny, though, for a couple reasons. For one, the shelves that are up behind me now, I had just finished getting those up. They weren't even painted yet. That night that I came home after that call, that was also at work, by the way, I was finishing the painting and the final touches on getting these shelves up so that I could expand my collection more. Because that's like, I wasn't in any rush to quit American Girl, as long as, things kept going my way, so to speak. So when I came back, I was, it was something cathartic, therapeutic about painting these shelves that I was like, what am I going to fill them with now? Maybe I could just spread out my dolls a little bit, because I have space for, what did I put up space for? I think about 30 more dolls. Listen, I could easily, I'll talk about that later, but I could easily add $30 to my collection at any given, well, not overnight, but like, I'm bad. I know that I'm bad. So as I was painting the shelves, I was talking to messaging with a friend who she had known the whole saga as it happened. And all along, she had been, her, how would you say, her tone about it was very much like, oh yeah, I could definitely see why you'd want to quit. I would totally want to quit too. And now that it had come to this, where I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I'm done. She was, all of a sudden, she was like, wait a minute. I think it was the reality setting in, because collectors, we're friends, and, it's like there's something exciting about sharing this passion with each other. So I think it was this moment of clarity for her that, oh, you're really not going to collect them anymore. I was just being supportive before. Don't really quit. So she was saying to me that, you don't know what was going on with that person. Don't leave it with that person and what she said. She could have been having a bad day. Maybe a lot of customers were pushing her around, and she finally found someone who she could cut off. And even though that doesn't make it right, she's just a person at the end of the day. And, it could have been, back to my paranoia, it could have been somebody who's seen my channel and is just like, oh, I do not want this guy collecting these dolls anymore. I don't want to see his videos in my feed. Or it could have been someone who, what she suggested, maybe somebody, because this is going to sound really juvenile, but listen, we're doll collectors. Sometimes there can be a little bit of jealousy or competitiveness within doll collecting communities. So she was like, maybe she doesn't have as big a collection as yours. So she's like, now I can cut him off. And so she just kind of talked me down. Where I was like, you know what? Maybe I am a little bit too hasty, because sometimes when it comes to collecting, I can be hasty. And I think it's because I've been, I don't know if let down is the right word, but I have quit so many things in the past already that there's always this voice in the back of my mind like, oh, is this going to be what ruins it for me? Is this going to be what pushes me over the edge? So it's like I'm always waiting for that anvil to drop. Or, yeah, I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I think that's what the expression is. The anvil to drop is something else. So I was just calming down. Again, I'd already been pretty calm from painting the shelves that are behind me, but her perspective made me think, okay, you know what, you're right. I should, do I really want to, I just put up all these shelves. Do I really want to not collect American Girl if it keeps going? So I did calm down, and the next day I did call them back. And then this person I spoke to was a lot more what you'd expect, a lot more understanding. And she said, she shouldn't have reacted that way. That's not the kind of message we want to give across to our customers. And she didn't say anything about that. She just said she was going to speak to her leadership team. Leadership team, by the way, which is not manager, but I would imagine the person who got on the phone was from the leadership team, not a manager. And so she said they would get back to me. Would I prefer an email or a phone call? And I was just like, whatever, it doesn't even matter. Whatever you feel like doing. It's no big deal. Because I had made peace. Even though I was not giving up, I wasn't going to be upset if I had to quit. Because I'd already quit in my head. But, because of my friend, who I appreciate, I was, just giving it one last shot. Why not? It was the holidays. Because that was the other thing too. Like, the holidays were around the corner. And so I was just like, well, I'll have a couple weeks of downtime to come to terms with the fact that in the new year, things change. So later that afternoon, I got an email, and the email said that the only way they could let me continue to be a Berry Rewards member would be if I started a new account, new email, and it had absolutely no association with any non-American address. So I couldn't ever ship to the Canadian address again, and I couldn't even have any reference to a non-American address. And I read that email, and I think I mentioned before the whole, like, you're not one of us. And I just got such a bad feeling of you're not one of us. And I didn't even respond. I deleted the email, and I was like, okay, that's all I needed to hear. I don't feel the need to have every single thing I ever buy from American Girl shipped to that American address. Because here's the thing about shipping to an American address. My main address is Canada. My collection is in my Canadian address. So that means every single thing I order. So if, let's say I ordered, it could happen, $10 in a month. Okay, let's say $5 in a month, because I think 500 is about what I would be spending, not 1,000. But it could happen. I'm just saying, let's say I didn't go to my American address for 2 months. So I had like 2 months worth of stuff, and I buy a lot, sitting there. That means not only am I just trusting it sitting in my building there, untouched, unbothered, I've already had something stolen from my storage locker. So already that's a stress. And then I have to bring it all back over the border. And even though, as long as you're honest at the border, they tend to be gracious. But still, it's like, how many times do I want to have to do that? just to keep spending all this money that I don't have to spend here. I could spend it pretty much anywhere. And I just had this feeling of like they thought I was begging them for me to buy their stuff. I was begging them to spend my money with them, and I was like, this is such a weird, it's such a weird feeling. Like, no, people like, I might get into that a little bit later, but thinking about how all the sales they've been having, for example, they're not doing that because they're raking in. They're not doing that because they're at their peak of selling. I'm not saying I know that from inside. I'm saying that's very obvious on the outside as a collector. We've never seen the Girl of the Year go on sale, at least in the beginning. We've never seen their limited edition. I've never seen their limited edition dolls go on sale at all. They've been on sale twice, but again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm just saying I felt really weird that they were treating me like such a, like, ooh, we don't want your Canadian money, so you can't buy from us if there's any Canadian association. You can't be our Berry Rewards member. But they did say that if I did decide to go down that path, they would then transfer all my rewards points to this new account. So my thousands of points wouldn't, be stolen, which is what they were. So even though I've totally made peace with it by now, it did take a minute to break the habit. Because first of all, I can remember which day this happened, December 18th, because that was the deadline to order. To anybody out there who ordered Lila last year from American Girl, they sent out, oh, by the way, I don't know if there was a coupon that was sent to, a discount code, sent to, for Summer's collection, excluding the doll, but all of her collection. And it was to get 15% off of the entire, anything aside from the doll. But they didn't say what it was for, but again, inside scoop, it was for anyone who bought Lila and something else. But I knew that I got it from buying Lila. So I was waiting. I was still thinking about if I was going to buy the parts, because there were some things I wanted from her collection, but I was waiting into the last minute because some things that I really wanted had gone on back order. And instead of ordering whatever I was going to get and then have 3 different packages come, I was like, let me wait until the 18th and see if the other pieces will come back into stock. But then I got on this phone call and all this stuff happened. I was like, well, I guess I'm not ordering Summer's collection anymore. Well, the pieces that I wanted of it. So that was kind of like the hard habit to break, because wouldn't it figure, another thing that happened was when the Stardust dolls had gone on sale the first time, I didn't have any customs in mind to get any more of the dolls. But then I had two ideas come in my head for another Stardust hybrid custom, let's say. And I was like, well, if they go on sale again, I'm going to pounce. And of course, that very night, that's when they put the Stardust dolls back on sale. And I was so nearly, it's like that habit of hitting that add to cart button. And I was like, wait a minute, no, I quit. I don't buy American Girl anymore. And even on top of that, they came out with these cute new releases that it was I don't know if anybody who saw it, there was, it was like a ice cream sundae set and not 2 pajamas. I wanted 2 of the pajama sets. It was the pajama set because I had 2 girls in mind who are in an ice cream shop setup. So I was like, oh, let me buy 2 of these so that I can put them both in pajamas when I feel like putting them in pajamas and have this more ice cream for their set. And then I was like, no, I quit American Girl. I can't buy these. So it's just funny that it was like, on the one hand, I was being tested, and on the other, it was me breaking the habit, because it is just, when you get into that mentality of more, it's hard to say stop. So it's just funny that that's what happens. But talking about those ice cream pajama sets brings me to the main point of the video, of why I did this video. One thing that's going to change the most about my channel is I won't be doing any unboxings of American Girl new releases. And I feel like those videos that I do, a lot of people start following after that, or maybe they're following because of that. So to anyone out there who is just looking for these kind of unboxing videos, that's why I wanted to do this video, just to let people know, just to be transparent that obviously I'm not going to be doing those anymore. But I think other than that, the rest of my content won't change. Obviously, well, I shouldn't say it's obvious, but I should tell you that I don't plan to stop. I don't plan to get rid of the dolls that I have. I still love my dolls. I'm very, very happy to keep them in my collection. And see, the funny thing is, my video before this one was me talking about the 5 things I love about collecting American Girl. So this video was like whiplash because it's such a 180, right? But I plan out my videos months in advance because it's part of the hobby. I know this probably sounds ridiculous, but I'm doing this as a hobby. So it's like I get excited to plan what I'm going to be talking about once or twice a week or 3 times a week over an extended period of time. So I knew I wanted to have that video for the beginning of the year. And then this one I'm shoehorning in because I was like, well, the good news is that proves that I don't have disdain toward the dolls that I have or anything I have in my collection of American Girl. And I still love what I have. And like I said, I plan videos months in advance. So I can tell you that I at least have until March of American Girl content, meaning, 85, 90% of my content, as it's been, will continue to be American Girl. And see, I don't know if when this happened, I was like, well, I could still buy things on the secondary market. Like maybe I can chase some old grails, if you want to call them that, pipe dream dolls. And I don't know if that's going to happen. I can't guarantee. Just like I can't guarantee if I'll never ever get over these American Girl dolls now that I'm no longer collecting the new releases. But, one thing I might do instead of unboxing new releases is I'll just have like a reaction video to them. It'll still make me feel like I'm a part of part of the community. And I still will because I'll be making these opinion videos or sharing my stuff videos. And I'll see how I feel about doing that, because when those pajama sets came out, I was like sad that I wouldn't be able to unbox them, but I could have just done a quick video about how I thought they were really cute and how I could have worked them into my collection, and how much money I saved by not buying the 2 sets, the 2 pajama sets, and the 2, you know what I mean? So it's like whenever there's a new release collection or whatever, I can just do a little reaction video, and who knows, maybe there could be one of those soon. And then it's probably obvious that I've been, I don't know if slowly is there even the right word. I've been crossing over, let's say, to Maple Lee, which is Canadian Girl. And I think a lot of that happened. I think the natural gravitation happened because of what I was saying before about, the not one of us is, I'm not, Canadian Girl, Maple Lee is never going to make me feel less than, so to speak, because I'm Canadian. Because that's the one thing that came up more than once when I was dealing with the Barry Rewards situation. Somebody saying, well, it is American Girl, and then them telling me that, I can't, to be careful, never to use the Canadian billing address, and then them saying the final straw for me was them saying that they can only have me be a Barry Rewards member and transfer my points if I have absolutely no mention of my Canadian address. So it was just like, just tell me you hate Canadians. And no, I'm kidding when I say that, but I'm saying you can't help but feel that way, because it was like dreadful. It was just like, despite how much I spend and how much I try to be like a positive person within the community, positive, because I'm always talking about what I love within American Girl in my videos. Not that I expect special treatment for that, but I'm saying despite just trying to be that kind of collector, it didn't matter, because it's like I'm not one of us. I'm not one of you. And I know no one out there, no one watching this, or, who I talk to feels that way. I know that absolutely 100%. But I'm just saying it was impossible not to feel that way in this process, being rejected, being othered. I know it may sound ridiculous, or maybe some of you will be like, yeah, that is what it sounds like. That's weird. Because the truth is, some of you, as I've already said, may hear this story and think that I'm a brat or a diva, or I'm expecting special treatment because of how much I spend, or whatever the case may be. If that's how my behavior comes that way, that's how you're going to feel. And if you ever went through something similar, I wouldn't tell you to feel the way I feel and react the way I'm reacting, because we're all products of our own experience. So, to anyone out there who does feel like I should continue collecting because they would in my shoes, then that's fine. That's what you would do. And I'm just not that kind of person. Like if something rubs me the wrong way, and listen to anybody who has seen my other videos and where I talk about personal things, I will walk away from anything that makes me unhappy or interrupts my joy. I will so easily walk away. It's like I will leave home. I will leave a job that I love if it interferes with my joy. So that's just the way I am as a person, and not everybody is that way. So not everybody would understand that. And to anyone out there who does feel this way, because now I'm getting maybe a little bit too philosophical in this moment, but to anyone out there who does, I have been in a lot of collecting communities where people will complain and complain and complain and say like, why can't I stop collecting these dolls? Why, when they do this mistake again, and it's like their 5th time saying it, I'm going to be done. And it's like, You sound like you're in a bad relationship with your dolls. And I'm not judging anybody or putting anyone down. I'm just saying, if when I feel that way, I don't like to feel that way. So when I feel that way, I'm like, okay, bye. And it's just my personality, I think. So that's why it's kind of easy. And to be honest, so you know how they say your patience is a rubber band? It's like you can pull and pull and pull and pull until you snap. Because I'm a very patient person, but it's like once it snaps, it's done and there's no going back, even though I try. And I feel like my patience stretched a lot farther than it should have in this situation. Like, because I think about it, I only got what it was, the 3 certificates. Yeah. Yes. 4. I only got 4 of the certificates for all those months that I was in the rewards program. So it's like all those thousands of points. So I just feel kind of silly that I just kept buying more things, even though not that I don't think they were doing it on purpose. It just so happened. And I think it happened the way it happened because it was time to, stop buying so many American Girl things. Because they're big, they take up a lot of room, and yeah, they're expensive, but mostly they take up a lot of room. That's the bigger problem. Because if it hadn't been the reward, so feeling like I was being stolen, robbed, and if it hadn't come down to that person coming on and being so snappy for whatever reason, again, I don't know what kind of day she had. I don't know her personally. Aside from that, if it hadn't happened that way, I don't think it would have been such an easy break, let's say. Even though, like I said, I almost had a couple moments of pressing that add to cart button. And see, when I talked about this last time in the Canadian Struggles video, a lot of people were really upset because they thought that they might have just been upset thinking that I was going to quit the channel or quit doing American Girl content specifically. Whatever it was, I should be clear that I will definitely still do videos twice a week at least. I was doing maybe 3 because so much stuff was coming out, and I'm already looking over at this huge Maple Leaf haul that I have to unbox. That'll be next. So there still will be unboxing videos. Again, I know I've already talked about what the future of the channel is, but I do think it's very important that people are completely clear on what's coming. And I still have like series of ranking my dolls and stuff like that. And if I do end up changing, let's say I do one day, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, get over American Girl and start selling things off because something else is coming in. It's something I've kind of talked about in the past because I've talked about quitting other lines, and it's just like now you might see it happen in real time if you stick around. But some people may be like, no more American Girl new release videos, bye, which is fine, and that's why I wanted to say this, and that's not me being sassy. But if to anyone who is worried from seeing the title or hearing the story that I'm just gonna get over it. No, the reason I started this channel is because I can just keep talking about my dolls, and I always love something in the doll world, but nothing is forever, which is just my way of saying I shouldn't promise that make it sound like it's forever. And to anyone, I think what I was trying to get to before, a point I was trying to make is, if there's any inspiration, not American Girl, I'm not saying go hate on American Girl because of this happened to me. I hope that nobody else does have this experience. However, I know that's not the case because when I talked about this last time, I was surprised at how many American people had similar experiences with their rewards, points being removed and their accounts being revoked. And it's not for me to say what happened because it's not like it happened. It's not like I was part of the situation. But I thought it was just they were just coming for me because I'm Canadian born. But that's the reason I'm saying that is because I don't want to make it sound like I'm telling people American Girl's a bad company. You shouldn't. I'm just saying for me, this is how it happened, and it doesn't make me feel resentful toward my dolls. And I hope anybody out there who is enjoying collecting continues to enjoy collecting. And if I, do slowly cross over to something else, you're just going to see how it happens. And if you're interested, then stick around. And I hope I haven't turned anyone off, like with with the way I've reacted so emotionally to this. But I also don't feel like it was emotional. I feel really good. I made peace with it, and it's like as I was doing videos since December 18th when this happened, I've made sure every video I've done has been just focusing on the positive side, and I don't plan to do negative. I feel like this is a very negative video for me, but this doesn't mean this is going to become the new tone of my videos at all. Like I said, 5 reasons. My last video was 5 reasons I love collecting American Girl. I just won't collect them I just won't be adding to the collection is all. So This probably ended up being very long. I won't know because I kept cutting to like drink some water. So whoever stuck around for this, thanks for hanging out with me. And I think that's all I had to say. So I still will see you soon in the next one.